It was a text message out of the blue, I think. It was either a phone call or a text message. Might have been a phone call.
Mick Irwin popping into the office with a crazy idea, and if you know Mick, they say fairly free-flying, his crazy ideas.
Everyone that knows Mick knows that he's always got an idea and he said he's working on something.
The first time I spoke with Mick about it, we were at the school swimming carnival, funnily enough, standing at the edge of the pool. The kids were doing some sort of crazy, novelty race, and he decided he would hit me with this idea of, hey, I think I want to start a charity. What can you do to help?
I guess the desire from Mick's behalf to do something for a family that I had only, I didn't really know the Christensons.
First spoke to Mick about it at Surf Life Savings, standing around the beach, obviously watching the kids running around in the water and the sand.
It was based around a good friend and work colleague of mine back in the late 2000s, around 2009. He and his wife were having a child. Through that process, unfortunately, his wife became totally incapacitated. He was also building a house at the time, and was halfway through this house and really needed a hand. So what I did is asked around, basically, how can we help this guy? And cut a long story short, we didn't do enough. The industry was very busy, and we did bits and pieces, but I felt as though we didn't do enough.
Sometimes when someone is in need of help, what exactly do you do? And how effective can you be on your own? But if we're doing something together, maybe we can have some better outcomes.
A lot of people know a child or a mother or a father that has had medical issues or is having medical issues, and they really related to that. You find out about these families, you think that's really bad, but then you just don't do much about it.
I'll probably experience that same frustration of saying to someone, hey, if you need anything, let me know. And not going any further than that. And it was good to be able to discuss this with other people, because I think all of us have experienced situations like it in the past. How effective are we in assisting people who need help? Probably not so effective on home.
And then all of a sudden, another family came up, which is the Christensons. And I've known Amanda Christensen for 15 years. I used to hang out when we were younger. My wife Deb went to school with Michael, so very good, close relationship with those guys. Whilst not best friends or anything like that, just good community family. We heard about Cooper.
Cooper, at about 3, woke up one morning and was cross-eyed, which previously, a few weeks before that, was mucking around the house and, going cross-eyed and thought it was funny. But then one morning he woke up and I was like, oh, you can't do that. You'll hurt your eyes. It's not a game. And he said, oh, I'm not. And I was like watching, I thought I just left it. And then I was watching him and they were just constantly cross-eyed. So I took him down to get his eyes checked and did that. And the optometrist said, no, you need to take him to a specialist. So we took him to a specialist here. They did run a high HIPAA test and they said, no, you need to go to Brisbane. So we went to Brisbane, and during those few months, because that obviously didn't happen straight away, that was over months, but within those months of us getting down to Brisbane, we were out and he went to grab a straw. He completely missed the straw, like he couldn't, match it up. Then we saw a specialist in Brisbane and he ran his tests and he said, look, I could do an MRI, but 9 times out of 10, they show nothing. What I recommend is he has surgery and it'll correct his eye, sort of like a lazy eye strabismus or however they pronounce it, and we'll get it corrected. It'll be a couple of surgeries, but it'll be fine. The next 6 months, his balance was getting worse. He had to hold my hand when we were walking. He would walk into walls. I ended up having to put him back into a shopping trolley to do groceries. he had that second surgery, and then it was about a month later. Michael was working down in Adelaide, and I rang. He had a fall at kindy, and he didn't put his hands down, so he smashed his nose, and he had 2 black eyes, and I was like, yeah, that's it. I'm done. This is enough. I'm done. So I rang the eye surgeon down in Brisbane, and by that stage his walking was all over the place. They made me an emergency appointment. Michael was working in Adelaide, so I took his mum down with me, and we got there, and as soon as he called us in and he saw me and Cooper walking into his room, the first thing he said was, how long has he been doing that? And I said, this has been going on for 3 weeks, but I said, obviously it's been progressively getting worse. And he said, that's not his eyes. He said, that's something in there. And he jumped on, he said, what's your paediatrician's name? He called him straight away and he said, yeah, you've got an appointment Monday. So I rang Michael straight away in Adelaide. He flew home, saw the paediatrician on the Monday, and he did all of his, tests, and he said, yeah, we're going to do an MRI tomorrow on Tuesday. So we did that. We stayed at the Sunny Coast, did the MRI on the Tuesday. They called us in, and it was like an hour and a half later. They told us to go back to see our paediatrician that afternoon, which we did. He came in, and Cooper was sitting on the ground playing with some toys, and he put the MRI up on the, the little white, the electric board, and well, you could not see it, could you? It was just, it was huge.
Look, at that particular time, I didn't know the outcome, so we all held hope that Cooper was going to be okay.
And then that's when our world fell apart, really, because that's when he sat us down and said, obviously, you know that he's got a brain tumour, and we're like, yes, that's all we know. And then that's when he hit us with...
What are we going to do about it?
Unfortunately, Cooper's brain tumour is inoperable. It's terminal. He has a brain tumour called DIPG, which is diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. And unfortunately, with that brain tumour, they normally only give children 6 to 9 months to live.
When I drove out to Michael's place and spoke to him, that's when I found out that this is, that he had been given diagnosis for, that he was only going to last, potentially 6 months.
Michael, I guess, reached out and made contact and said that he, wanted to come and have a chat, say good day to Cooper, and obviously see how he was going. And at that point, it's like, oh yeah, no worries, Mick. I've known him. We've known him for a long time, him and Deborah. So he drove up the driveway, and basically we had a bit of a chat out the front.
That was a total, how almost feeling as though, what am I doing here? We want to help, but in my head, we want to help. We want, what can we do to assist Cooper surviving, not the other way around.
In regard to, he said that himself and friends and everyone, obviously thinking about Cooper's situation now, what can we do to help? And I kind of said, well, there's nothing you can do.
I learned a lot from that initial drive up the driveway with Michael to really put the whole charity into perspective, which to this day is still evolving.
Do you want to be a part of that? Would you want to be a part of that moving forward, or what are your thoughts? And kind of was like, that's a great idea. I'm in 100%.
Yeah.
So we had a chat to Cooper about it, obviously, and the chat revolved around, I can't remember exactly the conversation, but it was more along the lines of he knew he was sick. By doing this, raising money, we can help other people, or potentially help other people that are sick. And, he had always thought he wanted to be a doctor. He wanted to help people. That was his. So he's like, yeah, okay, that's cool.
that was a good conversation with Michael. I think understanding, Cooper's position there, but also the direction of what we're trying to achieve.
That was something that captured my attention. A friend, he needed some help, and I'm sure he was there because it was a car-related crazy idea, and we might be able to participate.
Obviously, the relationship with Michael and Amanda, and obviously Cooper, he had this idea in his head of doing a fundraiser to try and help them out in any way we could. And he's come to us and said, "Oh, look, this is what I'm thinking of, about a car rally."
How could we actually get some people together to raise some money? And we were talking about like 20 grand, what amazing things could we do for this family if we raised 20 grand? If we got 20 cars together, they made $1,000 each. It's like, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was just an idea in Mick's head, and we had a catch up on the deck at his place.
You see who had some feelings or see who had some expertise that we can bring to bear.
Collectively, you can make a difference.
Mick rang up and said, meeting my place next week, one night after work on the deck.
Look, it was pretty casual. Obviously, we had our kids there. They were in the pool, and we were just sort of hanging out on the deck, having a chat, throwing some ideas around.
Yeah, it was. I think it was. Pretty sure it was November or something like that. It was warm. It was a northerly blowing. Sitting up on the deck, it was quite nice, and nice view from Mick's place.
I just remember it was just an outpouring of crazy ideas. I don't think there was ever any hesitation.
There was lots of enthusiasm, lots of great ideas. I guess a few moments of head scratching as to how it would all come together and whether it was something that we could pull together.
Just talked about the idea and a bit of brainstorming and what Mick had in mind and what he wanted to achieve and obviously he's picked the people as to who can contribute in each different aspect of his idea.
I think a lot of people sitting at the table were thinking big, and there was maybe not a recognition of the detail that would have needed to be considered to eventually pull it all together, but the ideas were all there from the beginning.
The idea was to run a car rally, and at that point in time, it was a 3-day car rally.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a great idea, and I guess the people who are in the room, we all had a fairly large group of mates that we thought would get involved, so I think we were confident we'd get 15, 20 cars sort of thing.
I guess it's kind of natural that with the kind of thing I do, it was how do we protect ourselves discussion here, that it's really easy to run an event, and I've been running motoring events for a long time, but how do we do that on a broader scale and dot I's and cross T's so that no one loses their house. Okay, so that was a big takeout for me, and I guess when we turned up to that first meeting, a lot of my, I think everyone around the table was agreed that this was a good idea, but I think also everyone around the table was a business person who understood the reality, and that there had to be some measures put in place to, protect individuals, while at the same time trying to actually build an interesting and exciting event.
It was exciting because I'd been thinking about it for quite some time, but as one person I couldn't do it. So it was really good and exciting for the thought process. Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do a coast to country, being from Mount Dolby Way, which is a smaller country town. We're going to get the people from the Fraser Coast. We're going to get on this rally. We're going to do some great fundraising. We're going to do a coast to country themed event. We're going to experience some of the hospitality of the country. We're going to also, ticking the box, bring that hospitality hopefully back to the Fraser Coast, and that sense of community that you find in the country. We're going to bring that back, and anything like that helps a community.
I thought I'd never thought about anything like that before, and But it got me thinking, and I thought, yeah, it's I like the idea of, finding the route and working out things to do, that sort of stuff. I've always enjoyed that sort of thing. And I was excited, as everyone was. This was a good idea, and yeah, let's make this happen.
I'm probably a person that if I decide I'm going to do something, however big or small it is, I'm going to do it. So I guess me walking away was, we can do this. But then talking to some other people, it was probably like, oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea, but shit, that's a lot of work.
I know we did send the Gildards away, send them away, they volunteered in their field of expertise to look into what was involved in registering as charity and look into some of those other, I guess, key steps that would allow us to conduct a large-scale activity and do it right, and not just be seen to just be stuff around in the bush.
Nick's concept automatically grabbed certainly us and no doubt everyone at the table. The concept of being able to help internally within your own community really had that draw and appeal, certainly to us and everyone there on that evening. So I think the mindset was, it's going to happen, how do we make it happen? Rather than, again, I guess, worrying about those finer points, which obviously then in the months after that were needed to be thought of and ticked off as we went. But certainly on a concept basis, it didn't take much for Mick to sell it to everyone there. We were all fairly well on board with the mere concept being brought up by him.
For myself, I think coming away from that first meeting, again, there was never any doubt that this was gonna happen. It was the execution was, a little bit dunno, I'm not sure yet, but this was going to happen.
Yeah, I had confidence that we could do it. Yeah. Did I think it was going to be as big as what it was? No.
If you get involved in anything, you want it to be successful. If you're going to have a name associated with an event, you want it to be successful. It's really, really important for people to enjoy themselves, of course, but there was a much more important element to it than that. See if we could get this family some help. And if we could, that was gold. It would have been a win.
Yeah, there was a great sense of optimism, and various people had some homework to do. I think that was probably the upshot of that first gathering.
As crazy as it was, it really all stemmed from that collection of people sitting there outside Etna with a drink in hand.
With regards to the Christensens, the important thing with those guys is Cooper, the face of Cooper, and the obviously trouble Cooper was in, automatically gathered a lot of troops. Not long after that, Jesse Moore's family were involved, and Jesse also had a form of cancer, and there was a number of cars associated with the Moore family. So, we're very blessed these days to have those two, Cooper and Jesse, still as our original faces of the Dunga Derby.
I absolutely love Pearl Jam, have all my life, from a young age anyway. So I hit Trish up, said, can we get Jesse's initials, JAM? And just like, oh, well, it has to be suitable.
Because we're not calling a kid Pearl, that's just feral.
So
not doing that.
she's like, agreed, and we'll go through names. And we went, how about Jessie Angel Moore? And that was how she was named, after Pearl Jam.
Grade 10, she'd been spending the whole year doing all her end-of-year dance performances, practicing and just sort of wearing down. We thought, yeah, she's just tired. That's what teenagers do when they're practicing about 5 days a week dancing. And the September-October school holidays, she broke her arm at the water slide blow-up thing that they had down at Seafront over with a cousin and brothers, and turned around and we went to the doctors and they went, oh, no, it's just torn ligaments in her arm. They only x-rayed below, just above the elbow down. She kept on dancing and struggling to be able to bend her arm, and we were even doing practice using your arm, and she couldn't fully extend it. We went to go to get the clearance from the doctor, and he said, I want the x-ray. He got the x-ray and said there's lytic lesions on the bones that he could see just in that portion that they already took. He sent us off to the hospital, to the orthopaedics. They went, oh, you've actually got a broken arm. Went, what? Got a full bone scan done, and they had a big break on the arm here. She had over 30 lesions from head to toe. So when you look at the bone scan, it's just a skeleton with black dots from head to toe on her spine, her arms, her joints, everywhere on her body. And the hospital turned around and said, oh, we'll send the scan to Brisbane and see if they want to re-break the arm and get it done again, like to cast it and put it back in place. That was then November. He had come back in December. So we were just like, oh, well, Brisbane must be okay with her broken arm. Came back in December and he said, oh, I didn't get time to send it off. I'll do it now. And within about less than a week of that, I got 20 phone calls in one day at work, and I'm grateful my work let me take the phone calls. And just to get us to Brisbane and to get us another MRI done and to have an appointment. So we went.
Let's get to Brisbane as quick as possible. Like,
so we're going.
No mucking around here.
We're going. It's a bone. Like, she broke her arm. What's the deal? Like, those other dots, they didn't seem to worry about it. So we packed up, took off on, I think that was like a Friday or something, or whatever it is, and we packed off on the Tuesday to go to Brisbane. And they turned around and said, oh, I think we need to do a bone biopsy. Come back in a couple of days and we'll get a bone biopsy done, but she has to go home on crutches. They did the bone biopsy, and before even getting the results of the bone biopsy, the surgeon called us in and said, without Jessie while she was in recovery, and said, this doesn't look good. Because he goes, I can see from the actual bone itself, it's not good where he did it. And we're like, whoa. So that was then, because we were packed for a 5-day stint to do the bone biopsy. And they called us in to say it. We were all down at South Bank chilling around, just having a wander down there, because they said, oh, we'll have the results soon. So I think we were like halfway up the pathway towards the hospital when they called and said, we need to get you back up here, we've got results. They actually stupidly told us on the phone, they said she has like cancer on the phone. And I'm like, oh. And Jessie's going, what is it? What is it? What is it? And it's like, yeah, we got to go up there. From then it was like, whirlwind of everything.
Dunga Derby, and it's Dunga, not Dunga. One of the things that we looked at as what we're trying to achieve with the rally, we looked at the platform or the idea of the shitbox rally and what they did and how they raised money in cheap cars, that sort of scenario. And basically it was, I don't know, it was my idea. I feel like, it was all brainstorming scenario, but I'm thinking, shitbox rally, just synonyms, Dunga Derby. And and went from there.
Oh, we just threw names around. I can't remember who suggested it.
Oh, it was all based around the shitbox rally. That was Mick's thing. I do recall sitting there and throwing names around that were similar to that shitbox rally, and so I think my recollection was that it was just another word for a heap of shit car, really. So that's where it come from my recollection, but it was a while ago. So
that was Jace Wegmick come up with that name. Dunga meaning obviously a pile of poop, and that's what we're about. We didn't want to spend a lot of money on the cars. We wanted to have something basic that we can get out. Not a lot of cost to do. There's some of the big events, obviously they, a lot of expense to run in them. We wanted to keep the cost to do this down, and have that sort of 30-year-old vehicle that we were taking on our coast to country route. So Jace came up with the Dunga. There was a lot of names pushed around that night, but the Dunga Derby evolved.
Look, from my perspective, obviously it evolved from we wanted to do a charity dash type event. Mick had an example in Western Australia of one that was run over there successfully called the Shitbox Rally. And I know a lot of the discussion went around whether we could have something similar to that name or we could pinch that sort of name. From my memories of the discussions, Jason came up with the concept of, from his life's experiences, the term Dunga was the equivalent of something shit and broken down. So it was something that, to my memories, he put forward and we all embraced and thought was a good idea.
What's another term for a crappy old car? And it's all Dunga. And then, I'm a big fan of alliteration, and we just sort of adopted Dunga Derby. Look, Rally for a Cause was adopted in a similar way. It was like, what's a car kind of thing? Well, a rally, but we're not really a rally. And then the idea of rally having those dual meanings of sort of an event, but also people coming together. And like, we're having an event for a reason, but we're also coming together for a reason. So Rally for a Cause, it worked. It was just natural. Like, I was literally on the phone looking at, for both Dunga Derby and Rally for a Cause, I was checking websites to make sure they're available and make sure there wasn't any registered business names, like, at the meeting. And I think I literally registered both of those from my phone at that event, at that meeting, once we said, let's do it. So, there wasn't a great deal of, that didn't go to debate, all right? It was just everyone around the table went, that's cool, and jumped on it.
From my part, being in the motor trade, it's just a word. It's a word that had been bandied around in the past. I think it's a pretty apt word to describe the type of vehicle we were looking for. That would be participating in an event like this, but it's pretty cool that it stuck, I suppose.
There's rumours that a few other people have said they took responsibility for the Dunga, but I think there's a couple of other rallies out there, and basically Dunga meaning a piece of poop, and so we wanted to have not a lot of expense go into the car rally with regards to buying the cars. So then that's why a piece of shit, or if I can say that on camera, came into it, and then Jace came up with, I think he's South African, I think he was calling it the Dunga Derby in his South African accent, but Dunga Derby it is, and that name's very much Jason. We had a lot of faith in what we were going to do here for the community. It was just sort of getting that keenness of ours out into the community, and like anything, it takes people a little bit of time.
I think there was probably a concept early on, that we maybe wouldn't even get the event off the ground in that same calendar year. And then I think we just set an ambitious target and made it work.
Year one, and again, I'm speaking personally here, it went no further than pulling off a 3-day trip and making some money. We wanted people to enjoy themselves, we really, really did, but how we were going to get those numbers that we needed, and were people going to enjoy what we thought was such a great idea, we didn't really know. What was the level of enthusiasm going to be like? We didn't know, but certainly get the trip organised, get people on board, and make sure we can get some money together for these families. No further than that for me. It was, if we could achieve that, happy days.
Initially, I think two sides to it, I guess. One is getting cars, getting entrants, mates, businesses, that sort of thing. That was fairly easy in a way. There was a lot of interest in that side of it, mainly because I think the blokes just thought it was a good excuse to go away for 3 days and drive around the bush and have a good time. The business side of it was tough, I think, to start off with, raising money for a charity that no one knew about. So the raising money side of it was definitely a lot harder.
Honestly, I don't think anything made it hard. I don't think hard's the right word. I think we found obstacles and removed them. I think that was probably a better way to say it. We actively sought out, at least from where I sat, we actively sought out the things that would become barriers.
Long meetings.
Hours upon hours of time.
Sitting at our dining room table.
I vaguely recall a meeting, I think it was at the Geldard's house, which is where we held a lot of our meetings, where we were still waiting, I believe, on the charity status to come through. And like things like bank accounts kind of needed, like we needed to go one direction or another, and how we would list things on websites and things. In the end, all came through, but none of us knew the timelines for these things. So I do remember some anxious moments, and I think they were hard, but I think there were moments there where we know we've got it, we know we can do it, we need the blocks to fall in place.
And with regards to sponsorship, those people that were involved in those teams or supporting those teams, we found that a lot of those people had little small businesses or large businesses, whatnot. So they're the first people that came in to raise money purely personally, I suppose.
We had the receipt, all the money that was coming in, from the teams and things, which obviously was that first year a bit more sporadic than perhaps it's evolved to in recent years. I know I ran around a dozen businesses trying to get vouchers and sponsorship from them.
Yeah, looking back, it was relatively easy to get teams, guys that are interested in jumping in a car for 3 days. Raising the money was a bit harder, but there was teams in that first year that actually surprised me with some of the events.
Looking back, there was a lot of things that, in hindsight, we would have done better.
It took a bit longer than I had anticipated it would, but we got there in the end, and it was set up as it needed to be, so it was an experience.
I guess we'd already picked our destination, in Thallon. I was already pretty familiar with some of the roads out there with work I'd done in the gas fields. Lee was very familiar with some of the roads out there. So there were just opportunities of, I guess, putting things together. How do we add up a day? And then what does that look like when you've added it to the day before?
My role was organising the route. So don't know really what my title was, but I just worked out where we were going and what we were doing, and it sort of developed from there.
Where I guess the larger group of us got together was around timings, was around I guess reasonable distances in a day, what sort of challenges we considered to be acceptable. Those first couple of years were long distances.
Well, we'd sort of worked out a bit of a plan as to where we were going to go, and Mick, through his contacts, we sort of had our destination sorted, being Thallon for the first year, and the first night, Dalby was a nice midpoint, and Mick had his contacts at the Dalby Rugby Club as well. So, there was some, we had some assistance there right from the start. We knew we had the contacts at Thallon for the meals and where we could stay, that sort of stuff, and breakfast, and then at Dalby at Broadwater, and we had the contacts at the rugby club to cater for us for dinner that night and breakfast next morning. So it sort of ticked a few boxes straight up. So my role was just to join the locations together by a track that's less travelled.
I guess it's fair to say, particularly in those first 2 years when we did go to Thallon twice, and the rest of us, I think, just sort of helped to make sure it was reasonable, I suppose. Lee did an amazing job of finding wide open areas. That focus then shifted into smaller days with, I guess, maybe greater adventure during the day. So more low speed activities that are still centered around the cars, but then also tons of time out of the car.
When I was a kid, going on, four-wheel drive navigation rallies with my family when the local four-wheel drive club was up and running, loved that sort of thing. And I've always driven down a road and I've seen him go, I wonder where that goes. I've got that from the old man. And I'm always wondering, what's there and what's down that track. I'm always looking at maps, it may be shorter on the paper, but it's probably, taking twice as long, but that's the way I prefer to go. And that's probably why I've enjoyed and done the job I've done in regards to preparing the routes. It's been a lot of fun, and I love finding those places that no one knows about.
Yeah, so once I guess we realised that we were going to do a car rally, it was like, I'm fully excited.
My friend and work colleague who we spoke about earlier, with the wife that became totally incapacitated, he turns up on the work doorstep with a donation, for the charity for that first year, and that was tough because we were there. We're doing this stuff for people like him. So and that brought back the we should have done more for you. Yeah.
There's so much love and support out there, like stuff, the reason, like what the support you get, it's the fact that they are there for you, that you're not alone.
Yeah, like I was saying about Jess, she didn't know the people, and it's like us, like people come up to us and we don't know them from bar of soap, but they're like, oh, how are you going? Like, and it's beautiful.
First year Dunga Derby, we were obviously involved in it through personally, again with Lee at Surveyors at Work as well. So our company Surveyors at Work were heavily involved, but obviously we wanted to put a car in as well. So we actually ended up getting the first 2 cars in it, so car 1 and car 2. So we found an old XF Falcon from out our Miles, as in a town. Miles, it's out the back of Bunty land. And then my dad said he'd lost his leg at the time and he struggled to get into his car. So his was about a 15-year-old car at the time. It's a 2001 AU Falcon, and those little bit of a bucket seats, he struggled to get in and out of it. So he needed another car, so they got a Camry, and he called me around one day and he said, "This is yours." Getting the car done up, because you want to do a bit of a theme, so we sort of thought a little bit Mad Max theme. So it was a silver car, and the boys painted it black, and put a big bonnet scoop on it and a big rear wing on it with black wheels, and still picture it. Tough one. Yeah, so Dad's obviously in a wheelchair on his front deck at Freshwater Street, and we rock up in the Dunga Derby car. So we took it round to Dad with a couple of the boys from work, and he was sitting on his deck in his wheelchair, and he lost it. He said, "That's fantastic." Yeah, so very proud he was that himself and the girls have created the Dunga Derby, and that he could do his little part, and that's car number 1.
Mick thought it was a big deal. He said it before. He said, "We got to get Jace off the Bruce Highway." That we certainly did. We went a long way west, and we saw a lot of stuff I've never seen before, and that was pretty cool as well. I appreciated it. I guess it's a big country and there's so much I haven't seen, but that was an unexpected benefit. It was good.
I think the wow moments were the camaraderie that with the teams were just automatically, automatically sort of gathered it had become. So there was a few get to know each other events beforehand, but it was just like, you know, they're all like a bunch of friends, a bunch of mates, all going together to achieve the same cause, all different groups of people, different walks of life. And you were just looking at them going, wow, this is unbelievable that you can actually get all these different walks of life together, all thinking about the same thing, which is our recipients, and with a lot of focus on Cooper and Jesse Moore as our first faces of the Dunga.
This from Chris, my boss. So yeah, he approached me at work. Well, firstly he approached Dunga and said, I've got someone that might be interested, like he's going through a hard time with his daughter's just got cancer. So yeah, he approached the Dunga, and then he came and approached me and goes, there's this Dunga starting up, and they wanted to have like Jesse's story and get the word out there. I was like, not expecting anything from Dunga. I was just like, rang Trish and went, oh, what do you think of this? And well, yeah, Jesse's permission as well.
Always made her a part of the decision making. She goes, oh.
Yeah, if it's going to help anyone else, put it out there. So yeah, we were all happy with it, and we went, yeah, let's do it. So yeah, that's how we became her face became the Dunga Derby with Cooper.
It was pretty tough when we found out, Cooper had passed away. We're actually still, organising the first Dunga Derby, and so it was it was definitely tough. We communicated with Michael and Amanda, and I was still planning the route at that point, because a lot of the connections, the Coast to Country Rally was out to Dalby and out to Thallon.
I certainly remember seeing all those Dunga cars all lined up, and obviously we had taken friend of Michael's, Chris, he'd taken our Dunga car down, and I knew that there was going to be a couple of Michael's friends that were in the Dunga for that very first year, so I knew they had their cars. But to see all of the cars that turned up that day all down the street, and to see them come and support still Cooper and us on that day, which was, I can't even, I'm not even going to try and use words for that day because there are none. But to leave that day with Cooper in that car, and to have all those Dunga cars following us with lights and sirens and giving him the send-off.
Yeah.
I don't think that,
He would have loved that, and I felt
amazing.
His presence, he would have felt that energy. He would have felt, he would have been cheering.
It brings me some hope, we live in a world where there's a fair bit of nastiness, and a lot of negativity, and it's easy to find yourself drowned in amongst all of that, and that's not a good way to live your life. Having an opportunity or the privilege of working with this charity and these people, you realize that's not what the world's all about. There's some really, really good people out there